The CBS Sports Classic had unexpected winners on Saturday, which means season-changing resume boosts for both North Carolina and Ohio State. What's next?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Monday, December 23rd, 2024, Christmas Eve, or as my kids like to joke, Christmas Adam, Eve, get it? Yes, I'm not even joking. That happens in my house. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and you're joining me at the place to get your college basketball hoops news every single day of the week. Thanks so much for making us your first listen or watch. I want to remind you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. This episode's brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers, you finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Check it all out at FanDuel.com. Want to welcome in the everydayers and all the Locked On College Basketball Discord members. So glad you're all here. Let's get right into it, man. What a great weekend of action. Who needs all the college football playoff blowouts? Give me college basketball every day of the week. In all seriousness, like every year, I love December Saturdays because we always have great non-con matchups going on, some great like one-off tournament things, a couple conference matches going on. We had some Big East action, some ACC action on Saturday. Really, really good stuff. So we're going to start with CBS Sports Classic. We'll talk Auburn and Purdue, some great Big East stuff, and of course our Monday six-pack. All of that coming up on the show today. Let's start though at Madison Square Garden, CBS Sports Classic. It's the second time it's been there in the last 3 years. It's always some combination of Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio State, and UCLA. This year the matchups were North Carolina and UCLA to start, and then Kentucky and Ohio State in the nightcap. And this was a story of the underdogs both winning, both unranked teams beating both ranked teams, both teams that have ranked aspirations, have NCAA tournament aspirations, meaning North Carolina and Ohio State, but both teams outside of the top 25 getting wins to really kind of resurrect and change things. Both teams were kind of meandering through complete mediocrity. Ohio State came into the game 7-4. Losses to Texas A&M, true road game. Totally live with that. A home loss to Pitt in overtime, 91-90. You don't want to lose those home games, but Pitt, seems to be top 4 in the ACC. True road loss at Maryland. That was the first Big Ten game for Ohio State. Totally understandable, but they got blitzed. That's the issue there. And then got blitzed on a neutral against Auburn as well. So you don't like getting beaten as badly as Ohio State has by both Maryland and Auburn. The other loss, well, I guess the Texas A&M was 14, but you don't like that if you're Ohio State, but they're understandable losses. The problem is Ohio State hasn't followed it up with any strong wins. Texas is the best win before this one, and Rutgers as well. But this is a true, honest to goodness, great win for Ohio State. And so the biggest win of their non-con schedule. And the same is kind of true for North Carolina. North Carolina right now at Ken Palm has the third ranked non-conference strength of schedule behind, the only other two teams they're behind are both in the like 350s and worse. It is Florida A&M has the strongest non-conference strength of schedule, 350th. And then literally the last ranked team at Ken Palm, Mississippi Valley State, is second in non-con, and then it's North Carolina. So these Tar Heels have played a very difficult schedule, but the problem is they've lost basically everything to this point. Their best win prior to this was Dayton in Maui, but they had lost to Kansas, Auburn, Michigan State, Alabama, and Florida, 4 of whom are top 10 teams right now, and Michigan State is 20th. So it's like you can understand the losses, but you really feel like you should have gotten 2 or 3 of those wins if you're the Tar Heels. All that to say, for both Ohio State and North Carolina, massive potentially season redefining wins. We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about the games first, though. Let's go in chronological order with them. For North Carolina, it's funny because basically it felt like we were watching a script of the same game that they've played multiple times this season, where they got down massive at Kansas, got down big to Michigan State and Florida earlier this week in the Jumpman Invitational, came back, took leads in those games, and ultimately couldn't hang on. So the only difference this time is not only did they get over the hump, but they stayed over the hump and actually won the game, did things that they couldn't do, for example, against Florida. Florida, in the final 3 minutes of that game, had an offensive rebound and putback or scored in some way on every possession down the stretch. In this game against UCLA, North Carolina didn't allow a single offensive rebound for the final 10 and a half minutes. But the story of this game was the Ian Jackson breakout, going home to New York, career high 24 points for this freshman. Jay Wright said in studio after the game, what was so interesting to me, Jay Wright, by the way, who's the basic college innovator of the four guard lineups, is I think Carolina has really figured something out today, and they're going to look back on this game and say, hey, that was where we really figured out our four guard lineups. And he meant the personnel. He specified, I don't mean Hubert Davis. So that was really interesting. Good for North Carolina. For now, pause. Ohio State, man, 85-65. That was what was wild about this game. Carolina barely beat UCLA 76-74 and took some late game kind of winning plays to do that. Ohio State just got a lead, kept a lead, and grew it against Kentucky, who comes in, just one loss prior to this. Career high 30 for Bruce Thornton, 22 of which were in the second half. Great to see Aaron Bradshaw return for Ohio State after missing 6 games while there's some investigations going on. So that's good. The bad news, though, is Bradshaw comes back, but Ohio State loses Micah Parrish, who left with a knee injury. No word yet as I record on the severity of that, but hopefully Ohio State and Coach Diebler will be able to get him back. Kentucky, man, just had some issues, just 7 of 23 on layups, meaning they missed 16 of their 23 layups. Mark Pope's team is not going to be happy about that. Kentucky led this game 21-20 at one point. Ohio State went on a 19-9 run to close the half, and then a 6-0 run to start the second half, and then just kind of held Kentucky at arm's length the rest of the way. It felt like a comfortable lead. Kentucky would push here and there, but Ohio State just kept responding. Great stuff for the Buckeyes. So the question now for both of these teams that get these wins that we didn't Saturday morning, Ohio State and North Carolina wake up and their fan bases and their teams kind of feel like, yeah. But Sunday morning when they woke up, they got to feel wildly different than they did Saturday morning. And I know it's just one game, but it is big wins for both of these teams. So for Ohio State, they're off until next Sunday when they host Indiana State. North Carolina is off till that same day next Sunday when they host Campbell. Both teams wrapping up non-con play before diving right in. So first couple for North Carolina. On New Year's Day, they're at Louisville that Saturday, January 4th, at Notre Dame, and then hosting SMU on Tuesday, January 7th. Some tough, you feel like you should be able to go win at Notre Dame, but SMU's looking really good. That's a tougher home challenge than maybe originally thought. Louisville got a good win over the weekend. We'll talk about that later. As for Ohio State, they host Michigan State to not start Big Ten, but start the main chunk of Big Ten play, I should say, and then go to Minnesota, then host Oregon. So a challenging start there for Ohio State as well. So both of these teams, the reason I bring those what's next up is because they can't just do this and then rest on their laurels. Both Tar Heels and Buckeyes have to continue to win to move forward. As for UCLA and Kentucky, let's make sure to not miss them. We've made this segment mostly about the two underdogs that won. I'm ultimately not worried about Kentucky. Better days are ahead. You hate to lose a game, but man, if you gave Kentucky 10-2 with one non-conference game to play, it's against Brown. They should easily win that game and make 11-2. If you had told me preseason 11-2 for Kentucky with wins over Duke and Gonzaga and Louisville, I would take that every day of the week. And yes, again, You would love to have beaten Clemson at Clemson. You would have loved to have beaten Ohio State. But you got to feel good about where you are if you're Kentucky. As for UCLA, now just 2 losses, the other being to New Mexico on a neutral. That's fine. New Mexico's a strong squad. UCLA, the biggest wins are over Oregon and Arizona. We'll see how good Arizona truly is. I think Oregon might be better than Arizona right now, but for UCLA, they got to turn around. Next Saturday, they play Gonzaga. I think it's at the Clippers Stadium, if I remember correctly. We'll get to that later in the week. But that's going to be a massive matchup for UCLA. We'll see how they bounce back. But Gonzaga is trying to bounce back too, because they've beaten Nichols and Bucknell. But that comes on the heels of back-to-back losses to Kentucky and UConn. So everybody, man, we're just looking at what is next for these programs. So speaking of all that, Purdue, Auburn, 2 teams right struggling to get near the top. Purdue's had some losses kind of similar to North Carolina against higher ranked teams. Could they do it against Auburn, who looks like, to me, the most complete team in the nation right now? We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Rocket Mortgage. Hey, let me ask you, did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about, or maybe that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to some people I know. I had a few subscriptions that I had that I didn't realize. I know some other folks in the same boat and didn't even realize I was paying for it. Rocket Money makes it so easy to track them all down and get rid of them. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your subscriptions, but also helps monitor your spending, helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. That's the goal, right? It brings everything together in one place. I love this one-stop shop. So whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, even the goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money is going to help you out because they've got over 5 million users and have saved up over $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when they use all the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. Again, go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, let's leave Manhattan, New York, and head down to Birmingham, Alabama, where the 16th ranked Boilermakers were down there to take on Auburn, basically in their backyard. Auburn kind of trucks Purdue 87-69. This is the Tigers' 4th win over a ranked non-con opponent this season so far. That matches a program regular season record. Auburn, this game was tied at 15. Auburn then goes on to lead 41-26 at the half. That's a ridiculous run to close the half. And that's basically it. Auburn was up 33 points with 7 minutes to go in this game. Great stuff. Part of it, we said last week on Friday heading into this thing, we weren't really sure about Johni Broome's status yet. Well, great news. Not only for him and for Auburn, but just college basketball, man. This dude's the front runner for the National Player of the Year. We'll get to those odds in our FanDuel read in just a second. And so you want him to be healthy. You want him to be able to play. And that's exactly what he did. Not only did he play, he started. Not only did he start and play, he played 30 minutes and got a 23.11 rebound double-double. So I think Johni Broome's going to be just fine. Thank you very much. And again, that's great news for all of college basketball, but certainly for Auburn. One of the things I was watching for was how Braden Smith, who's a little bit smaller, how he would handle Auburn's kind of athletic, long, rangy guards and backcourt dudes. And, it's hard to truly say how much of this was a result of Auburn's defense, but for Braden Smith, didn't really have his full usual big-time game. 8 points on just 3 of 12 shooting, 6 assists, but had 5 turnovers to go with it and 3 steals. So, it's like not the game you're really looking for Braden Smith to really, if they were hoping to knock off Auburn, particularly in Birmingham, needed more out of Braden Smith. I forgot to check his rebound. Yeah, just 2 rebounds to go with that as well. So not really much of a day for Braden Smith. Similarly, Fletcher Loyer can't do much, 11 points. So he scored 3 more, but for him, just 3 of 12 from the field as well. And 0 of 4 from 3. Purdue needs Loyer to hit those outside shots. What's interesting to me about the Boilermakers, as you look at their schedule and what they've done and what they're looking to do, Purdue, it's kind of similar to North Carolina in that they've started racking up some losses now. They go from 8-3 to 8-4 on the season, having now lost 3 of their last 4. But listen to who these losses are to. Marquette in a true road loss, 8-point game. Penn State, true road loss, 11 points. You'd like to keep that one a little closer. That's what started Big Ten play for Purdue. And then these last 2 games back-to-back. Texas A&M, that was kind of a semi-home game for Purdue. I think that was just last Saturday at Gamebridge, if I remember correctly. But that's just a 4-point loss. And then this one to Auburn, an 18-point margin, but it was down in Birmingham. Auburn is just insanely good. The thing for Purdue is that they also, similar to North Carolina, have had other opportunities. North Carolina's other wins aren't as good, Dayton and now UCLA, because Purdue knocked off Alabama. Let's remember that home win. They've beaten Ole Miss. They've beaten Maryland at home. And so good wins for Purdue to go alongside those. So yes, you wish you didn't have 4 losses on your resume, but they're all losses you can certainly live with. So, just ultimately, again, great that we get these kind of games. Big thanks to Purdue and Auburn for playing it. And let's keep going on with all of those things. Another SEC team in action, Mississippi State at number 21 Memphis there in FedEx Forum. Mississippi State goes in and gets this win, 79-66. Bulldogs up 16 at the half. Memphis is good, but this is now their second home loss in non-con. This one excusable. The other one not as much. That was to Arkansas State, if you'll remember, pretty recently. And frankly, in this game, Memphis just didn't shoot the ball well enough. Not good enough shooting numbers, and got to do more than that at home. And I know Mississippi State's a good team. This is their second best win. Their best win, it's funny to put it this way, is a true road win at SMU. As we said just a minute ago, SMU looks really good. But to get these 2 road wins for Mississippi State is big time. Winning at SMU, winning at Memphis, man, I think those are both going to have legs and run and be really good. And for Mississippi State, their only loss at this point is to Butler on a neutral by 10. And so you'd like to beat Butler, but whatever. They'll keep moving on, but got to get like SEC, man. It's just going to be a bloodbath. I'm going to keep saying it because it really, really is. And you got to just get as many wins racked up as you can in SEC play. Speaking of Butler, we'll get to them in just a second. But last 2 things I want to say before we move on to our 6-pack. A couple notable Big East ranked teams went on the road in Big East play on Saturday and both got wins. Very close, very survivory, but they won. Number 9 Marquette wins at Xavier 72-70. Critical no call late. We'll talk about that in a second. UConn, number 11, goes to Butler and survives 78-74. Now a 6-game winning streak for UConn following the Maui debacle. We got to come up with a fun name for that. The Maui. Yeah, I'll just go Maui debacle for now, and we'll come up with something another time. Marquette, 72-70 over Xavier. Cam Jones, National Player of the Year candidate, 20 points, 8 assists. David Joplin had 19 points. Golden Eagles were up 15 in the second half. Xavier rides a 12-0 run at some point to take a 64-63 lead, and you're like, all right, Xavier's at home. They're still without Zach Freemantle, still trying to kind of figure that out, but they're at home. Up 1 now. Now that they've gotten over the top, can they stay? Can they keep pushing Marquette back? And they couldn't. Kind of the key for me was Xavier had the ball. They're down 1. Chance, just over a minute left. Stevie Mitchell gets a steal. David Joplin gets a bucket on the other end. Now it's 3-point lead for Marquette. 69 seconds left. That was kind of, that's still a 1-possession game, but Marquette is able to pull it out. Final play. Marquette has the ball, Xavier has the ball, streaking up the sideline right in front of the benches. Chase Ross looks like he's going to step in to try to make a play. Every angle I saw, even the straight on from head on and from behind, did not look to me like he made contact. I thought it was the right call. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that. I think if I remember correctly, Robbie Hummel on the broadcast was like, I think it's a foul. I thought, I can't remember who the Xavier player even was, but I thought he kind of anticipated contact and started lurching a little bit and got out over his skis. And that was that. And so, It's tough to call because if I'm Xavier, I would have wanted a call there. I don't think it warranted it. And hear me say that as somebody that um, I want the justice of, like, if there's a foul at the end of a game, call it. I hate it when we swallow our whistles at end of games. I didn't think there should have been here, and there wasn't. So to me, right call. Marquette wins 72-70. In Indianapolis, UConn wins at Butler 78-74. Again, as I said, remember, Maui, 3 straight losses for UConn. Now they've won 6 in a row, and it included that 3-game gauntlet of Baylor, of Texas, and then Gonzaga in the Garden. And now a road Big East win over Butler. Alex Karaban, 21 points, 6 rebounds, a couple threes late in the game to help put this thing away. Kudos to Butler, man. They kept reeling. Every time I was like, oh, man, UConn's about to run away with this, Butler was able to pull them back in. Even at one point went on an 8-0 run. They tied at 63, but just could never get over the top. Good effort from Butler. Ultimately, UConn seems like they might be getting it figured out. We'll see. That means trouble for the rest of the Big East. Hopefuls like Marquette, like St. John's, who got a nice win earlier in the weekend over Providence. By the way, we should mention that as well. All right, it's time to get to our six-pack. Illinois, big win at Mizzou, or not at Mizzou, against Mizzou in St. Louis on Sunday. We'll get to that and the rest of our six-pack. Jerome Tang, he's done playing Wichita State, apparently. We'll laugh about that and more coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. Hey, look, the NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the action this regular season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, if you're a new customer, you can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's great, man. Definitely take that. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to pick up a W. I mentioned earlier, National Player of the Year frontrunner Johni Broome. I don't know what level of health he is, but he's healthy enough to play against Purdue, play 30 minutes, and have a great game. So he's still your front runner, -210 right now, followed by Duke's Cooper Flagg at +300, and then Cam Jones, who we just talked about, +850. Tennessee's Chaz Lanier is rising up, 4th in these odds now at +1400. Makes sense. He's on the #1 team in the nation, right? And then Iowa State's Keshawn Gilbert also jumping in at +1600. Man, I love as the season goes on and we see these guys start hopping in. So if you got some hope for Tennessee or Keshawn Gilbert in Iowa State, man, get on these odds while they're still a little bit longer. Do it at FanDuel.com. Visit today, FanDuel.com, for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's time for the Monday six-pack. We're going to start in St. Louis, Missouri, just about 4 hours that way from me. Illinois wins 80-77 over Mizzou. For Illinois, they've had some nice bounce backs lately. Remember, opening Big Ten play, they lost in OT at Northwestern, followed that up by beating Wisconsin at home. Last Saturday, they lost at home to Tennessee. Remember that great game, 66-64. Jordan Gainey got all the way to the rim, if I remember correctly how that ended. That's what's coming to my head in real time anyway. And then follow that up by getting this win over Mizzou. And I know Mizzou's not Tennessee, but still, it's great to follow up a loss with a big win. Casper's leads Illinois with 21 points in this thing. Illinois was up 10 with 6:30 to go, 67-57. But then they let Mizzou get off an 11-0 run. They fall behind by 1 with like 2:20 left, 68-67. Trade baskets, couple ties. Kylan Boswell goes to the line with a chance for a 2-possession game with 8 seconds left. Makes the first, misses the second. Mizzou comes back. Jacob Cruz gets a great look to force overtime, but he misses, kind of hits back rim at the buzzer. So Illinois gets out of there with a dub. Illinois, one more non-con game before getting into that's next Sunday before getting into Big Ten play. As for Mizzou, what do they got next? Alabama State on Monday, December 30th, and then they start into SEC play. So that's where you go for both of those teams. Mizzou falls to 10-2, bookends of their season so far. Lost at Memphis to start the season. This is just their second loss since then. Remember, they beat Kansas, massive win along the way. Number 2 in the six-pack, K-State goes to Wichita State and gets absolutely blitzed. 84-65 Shockers. This was on Saturday. Wichita State was down 4 at the half. They come back to win the second half 55-32, just blowing the doors off of K-State. Kellis Robinette, this was interesting. As somebody that covers K-State, he tweeted post-game, quote, "Sounds like Jerome Tang is fine with letting the Kansas State-Wichita State series end after tonight's game." From Jerome Tang, quote, "It doesn't do anything for us." Coach, that's not the best thing you could say after a road loss where you just get drubbed. It definitely does something for you. I would contend that it shows you how much still you've got to work on this season to get to where you need to be before Big 12 play. Continue to show you got so much left to do. Not the right statement. I love Coach Tang. That's just not the right thing there. We continue to look at this front court, man. They just need so much. Ugonna Onyenso not helping. 2 minutes, 0 for 3 from the field. Remember, Achor dismissed from the team. Coleman Hawkins, his numbers are fine, but it's not this like high-level elite thing that he's getting paid $2 million or whatever it is for. Worst field goal percentage of his career since his freshman year anyway. 29.3% from three, 50% from the free throw line. That's the worst of his career. He is filling out some other statistical categories well. Career highs in rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals. That's great. His fouls are down. Turnovers are up a little bit because of all this usage. That's great. But Coleman Hawkins needs to do more offensively. He needs to shoulder more of the load. Number 3 in the six-pack, Princeton upsets Rutgers 83-82 on Saturday at the Prudential Center. Princeton has the ball with 21 seconds left. They're up. It looks like they're going to win. Sideline out of bounds. Rutgers steals it. Gets a 3 for Ace Bailey on the opposite wing. Now Rutgers is up 82-81, 15 seconds left. Caden Pierce gets into the lane, bucket, ball game. Almost. Harper gets a desperation shot at the other end. It misses. So great win for Princeton. Remember a couple years ago, they had that nice run in the tournament. Rutgers, you just kind of up and down, man. This is just what it is all season long. Caden Pierce finishes with 21 points, 14 rebounds. Xavier Lee also has 21 points. Ace Dylan Harper, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 assists, 3 steals. Great full line. Ace Bailey, 15 points and 12 boards. Nice double-double there. It's not enough from the freshman to do it. Rutgers falls to 7-5. Number 4 in our six-pack today. Number 22, Dayton against number 19, Cincinnati. Was really, really intrigued by this intra-Ohio matchup. Cincinnati wins at 66-59. Another critical game for both teams who are trying to continue to build their at-large resumes. Remember that Dayton knocked off Marquette, has beaten Northwestern, beat UConn, should have beat North Carolina at Maui, was up like 21 at one point in that game, but let the Tar Heels come back and win. And their only other loss is to Iowa State, other than this game. So, I guess North Carolina was still ranked at that time. So all 3 of Dayton's losses are to ranked teams. But their 2 losses previous to this were a combined 7 points, lose by 7 points here. Nothing really to feel bad about. Cincinnati, their only loss this season is to, you might remember, true road game at Villanova in the Big 12 Big East battle. You can live with that. Villanova's playing a little better, although lost this weekend. The problem is Cincinnati doesn't have a ton to help out that resume. So Dayton, that's a legit win. It's a quad 1 loss and good stuff there. Dan Skillings being back is huge for Cincinnati. I do not think they win this game if he's not back yet. What did he do? 17 points in this game? Yeah, with 6 rebounds, an assist, 4 steals, and a block. So great stuff. I know that the Bearcats are really, really elated to have Dan Skillings back, and we'll continue to see what they do in Big 12 play in Dayton as they get ready for a 10 play. Number 5 in the six-pack, Villanova at Creighton. Mentioned this one a little bit ago. Creighton, big-time home win, 86-79. Similar to what we just said about Cincinnati and Dayton. Both of these teams need wins. Villanova's trying to overcome the earlier parts of the season. Creighton's doing the exact same. So Creighton does get this home game. Important for both teams. Nova falls to 1-1 in Big East play. Creighton jumps to 1-1. Both are 8-5 overall. Eric Dixon does Eric Dixon things. 27 points, 10 of 17 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3. Great stuff. Wooga Poplar, a dub, 19 points and 10 rebounds in the loss. For the Creighton side of things, 3 players get to 20 points. Kalkbrenner is 23. Stephen Ashworth, double-double, 20 points, 11 assists. Jemiah Neal, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. Goose egg had a goose egg. That's what I call Mason Miller because he never scores, and that was the same. Again, high-level shooting and shot making from both teams. Both were 50% or better from the field. Both were 40% or better from 3. But the big differential in this game to me, Creighton, 14 of 25 from 3. That's 56%. That outdid the 40% that Villanova shot from 3 on fewer attempts. Good win for Creighton. Villanova's going to need to rebound. Creighton's going to have to keep building on this. Finally, in the six-pack, let's go to the ACC, where Wake Forest at number 25, Clemson. The Tigers win 73-62. This is another important game for both these teams. You know, coming into the season, I think we viewed them both as top 4-ish in the ACC. Clemson has shown that. Wake really hasn't. And so Wake, if they could have gotten this road win, could have been critical and massive for them. They can't. Clemson holds serve at home. Big to get it for them. Hunter Sallis gets 26 in this game, but losing effort for Clemson. It's Victor Locken that kind of leads the way. Triple-double type numbers, 13 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and then added 2 steals, 2 blocks to go with it. Great game for him. Jaden Zachary, 12 points, ready for this, 6 assists, and 5 steals. Being pesky and feisty. Ho-hum for the chef, 13 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Just, you know, him doing that is third billing for Clemson in this game, and that's what you need from your dudes. Elsewhere in the ACC, very quickly as we get ready to get out, Louisville crushed FSU at FSU 90-76, and if that's crushing, then I don't know what SMU did to Boston College, but it was 103-77. You kidding me right now? SMU doing work in basketball and football in the ACC as they move in. Mustangs right out of the gate, crazy. Duke also throttles Georgia Tech in Atlanta 82-56. Also, the ACC struggled in non-conference play on Saturday. Had a couple wins. North Carolina, there's one other that's not coming to mind right now, but outside of that, check this out. Syracuse loses to Maryland 87-60. Virginia Tech loses at St. Joe's by 20. In the San Jose tip-off, Oregon, number 10, beats Stanford 76-61. Cal falls to San Diego State, number 23, in the nightcap, 71-50. By the way, San Diego State had a wild travel schedule. You should go read up on that. Whole bunch of fog causing issues. And maybe the worst of all of this, Miami loses at home to Mount St. Mary's in overtime. Yikes. ACC, y'all got to get things figured out, man. This is rough. This is so bad. All right, gang, it's great to be back together on a Monday. Happy Christmas week to you. I just hope it's a great week for you, that you are able to have time with friends and family, get some rest and relaxation, and just enjoy your week and your time, whatever it is that you're doing. It's a joy to get to be together with you. If you haven't subscribed on video and audio, make sure you do that so you don't miss a second of Locked On College Basketball. If you haven't joined our Locked On College Basketball Discord, we'd love to have you, man. We're talking hoops all day long. It's free to join, links in the show notes. Apologies to the Lawyer family, especially after that game he had Saturday. Let's go Wildcats, and until tomorrow, Andy Patton will be right back with you. Peace.